大家好，那我们接下来直接开始下午2点整的议程。那我们先把时间专跟我们讲是 ，Let's go， come on.
So let me quickly take a selfie. I forgot to take it this morning from all of you. Wait, that's good. So and yeah, almost. And
I'm closer. Come on.
let's say fun in. Let's say fun in 1, 2, 3, fun. It's too hot, right? So, okay. Then let's do something. Let's speak a little bit about Gradle, because the day slowly ends, and also this conference. No better time to speak about it. I said it a couple times already. So, hello, I'm Matthias. I'm right now an engineer at Tamondo. We build some stuff with Kotlin there. Sometimes I do Rust in my free time. I organize a couple of stuff, and yeah, I'm also doing something with Coin. So if you like to connect, you can scan this little QR code, add me on LinkedIn, and poke me there. If you have questions or anything, I will even answer. So I count to 3. 1, 2, 3. So let me go on. So why I want to speak about Gradle? Because first of all, my focus is like I want, when I do some setup stuff for the build, I want to focus more on the important stuff and not like repetitive parts, right? Which you do all over again and again and again. That's just clutter code, which you can then put somewhere else and can share. Second of all, I want to be lazy, because if I can share stuff and I don't have to repeat stuff all over again, I save my time, right? So I can enjoy my time going to Taipei. And third point is I like elephants. So, and I like Gradle, weirdly, and Gradle is part of the ecosystem, and unfortunately the Kotlin ecosystem is not so appreciating Gradle as it should be, I think, at least. And elephants, of course. So, and this talk will be separated in 2 parts. First of all, we speak a little bit about version catalogs and how we got there, and the second part is about convention plugins and how we can fiddle version catalogs and convention plugins together. So I will start with version catalogs, because that's the easier problem we can address. And what we want to address, first of all, is how we can distribute dependencies over multiple projects, for example, without copy-pasting them, because people still do that today, and that's actually a bad practice. You shouldn't do that. So, and the second point is that you sometimes also have some Snowflake projects which need very specialized dependencies or rely on old versions, and we should have some method where we can replace versions we have in our shared catalog, and that's the thing we need, right? We need specialization, and on the other side, generalization. So we need everything. And the third point is that we want to have some safety when it comes to dependency, that we can version them in a version control system, or maybe in something like Maven, yeah? That once we make an update and something breaks, we can easily roll back without having to change our entire setup again, just to find a mistake in the meanwhile. And this is a problem which is quite hard, and I run personally a couple times into that. So, and how we actually got to version catalogs. I'm not sure who is doing Kotlin for around 5 to 6 years. So you actually had to deal with Groovy and stuff, right? You know how it looks. So the others don't. That's good. That's really good for you, because there was a time where there was Groovy around, and you could. There was no Kotlin DSL and stuff, and that was a bad time, right? So you had to do an awful lot of stuff, and it was really awful. And when it came to dependencies, it looks a little bit like this, right? You had a project extension which was somewhere defined on the top level. There you put in a version, and then you used it somewhere in the project. So again, the yellow one is the extension. The red one is just a name which will translate in a variable, because Groovy does very magical things, right? We don't have to say something like val and so on. We can just write it down and assign it, and it magically works. And then we can use it somewhere else. So this is a little bit problematic because, and yeah, we can also use it further down in the project because once you have it in the root project, it propagates down also to other modules. But as I said, that comes with some problems. First of all, we cannot really share such a setup. We just make it once for one project, and that's it. We can't ship it somewhere else. So that also means we can't version our dependencies. That's something we want. And auto-update is an issue. Like with Dependabot or something in the early beginnings, that didn't really work. Nowadays, it can do that. Even Renovate can sometimes get in-code dependencies and can upgrade them, but that doesn't always work. And there's much more issues with that. So that's why the 3 dots. So what came after that? Who used something like composite builds and build source for dependencies? So, oh my God. So this is a thing which was like on vogue 2000 in the 2000s and even up to date, that you define some dependencies in build source and it's magically there then for the users in your project. How that look like is it's simply code. You define some objects. Like here you have a version object, you have a dependency object, and there you can define in it some versions, like normal objects, for instance for coil. And you have the version, you can consume the version, and then make some dependencies out of it. That's, I think, quite common. You still see that in a lot of projects up to today. They're doing exactly that thing. And consuming it is then quite easy because you have a global object, which is in a project. You can just use it, and that's it. So, and the good thing about it is if you have such a structure, everything gets a little bit more easy, right? You can structure your dependencies according to maybe companies, maybe namespaces, or whatever you want. That's a good thing. You can even ship that via Maven if you make a full-blown plugin out of it. So technically, we solve with that the versioning problem, and that we can share it to other projects already. So that's what I said, and we can program dependencies. If you want to make something very complex, because it's a pure Kotlin, you can do that. Nobody will stop you, unless you do. So, but there's also bad things about it. First of all, we can't overwrite versions. Once we have this global object, we can't reassign a version if we want to share it, for example. That's a bad thing. So what we also can't do is like enforcing custom rules for some cases, and also like we cannot add new project-specific dependencies unless we make this entire idea of having objects and stuff more complex by using lists and so on and so on. And that's something we not really want. And auto-update doesn't work at all, right? Dependabot cannot deal with such stuff, or something like Renovate. So. And then what's next? Welcome to the future. Who uses version catalogs? Oh, that's good. So that's a version catalog. So, and this is the recommended way nowadays to use dependencies in Gradle, and for that also with Kotlin. So version catalog consists on multiple blocks. First of all, we have versions where we define dependency versions, like here for Android App Compact. So then we can use that versions in a library block where we actually define artifacts for dependencies. In this case, also App Compact. So and it actually just referenced then the version, like here. We take a reference from the block which is here. So nice stuff. And then there is more, because we can also do the same with plugins, right? We can define a plugin which gets then an ID, like here. And then we also can reference the version again, here to here again. So, and there's a magic thing which wasn't there before, bundles. They are really good, because there you can actually bundle multiple dependencies together to one thing and use it somewhere in your project, and that saves a lot of space already in your build setup, even if you just use that locally. That's a great thing, but we can abuse it to a very absurd level later. So First of all, what you need to know, simply like, if you put something which is called libs.versions.toml under the Gradle folder, you will just have automatically the version catalog available. But if you want to have a more elaborate schema, you can do what I do here. Like, there is this dependency resolution management block where you can then say, oh yeah, I want a version catalog. I want to create one, which I call here with the name antibytes, and please load it from this location. So that's what's exactly happening here. So, and if you want, for example, not use that libs.toml, and that resolves in your project to libs, right? You can also override the default name by just setting the default library's extension name property to a random name to your liking. If you don't want to have a custom location and so on. That's really neat because gives you more control. But this here is really powerful because that means you can split up your dependency catalogs in multiple things. Like you can have a dependency catalog for pure build dependencies. You can have a dependency catalog just for, let's say, Android dependencies and so on and so on. You can really use that and customize that to your liking, and that's very important. So, and then, for example, we can consume plugins like this, right? This alias function is very important because that's a convention by Gradle. If you want to use plugins from the dependency catalog, you just write alias, then you reference the dependency catalog. Plugins is a given because we want to use something out of the plugins block, and then we have the artifact we want to use. So, same goes for other dependencies, like we have, again, the dependency catalog name and the artifact name. That's for a normal library. And here we have something for a bundle. Again, the version catalog name, then bundles as an indicator that we want to use something out of bundles, and then the bundle name we want to use, actually. And behind the bundle can be 1,000 of dependencies, and there you see you just have to import then one line. That's super great. So, and can we do more? Can we publish that dependency catalog? And the answer is, of course, yes, we can. So what we simply do is we use the power of Maven publish. So, and we also have to use the version catalog extension that we can actually or include the dependency catalog in the module what we want to export then to Maven, which we do here. We use the Maven publishing thing. We also have to sign it if we want to ship it for something like Maven Central. And then we can create an artifact for this catalog by Maven publication. And we just need to say it, oh yeah, please use as a component version catalog. That's also a convention. That's nothing I did myself. You have actually to write exactly that. So, and then you just include the version catalog like this, and you can publish it on Maven Central and use it for all your dependencies, or also for external projects. If you work for an agency, that's quite great because that's a stable link which never breaks because you can't roll back any stuff you ever publish to Maven Central. So if you have an agency, that's what you want to do, definitely. So, and can we do more? So we can actually also, on the consumer side, change the versions because version catalogs have a pragmatic API, and that's easy done. Like this, we also have the dependency catalog resolution management block. Again, we say we want version catalogs, and we just get the catalog, we just include it and say, oh yeah, give me the catalog, and for example, change the version of KSB, right? That's the pragmatic thing. That's like the version block. Then you address the artifact you want to change and the version, like what we see in the TOML file. The same goes for libraries. We can do exactly the same. We can even here with version ref hack in manually a version if we want to. And we can also do that with bundles, with plugins, and so on. And that's really important because that means once we have, for example, shipped our version catalog to Maven Central, we can pull them in our project there and then override some versions of dependencies to our liking or to our needs because maybe it's a Snowflake project and it needs exactly that dependency on this version for reasons. Great. Great. Can we do more? Yeah, we can. We can start abusing dependencies. And that's really great because if you do a Kotlin multi-platform, you will most likely run into issues that you need something like dependencies for Node. If you do a Kotlin JS, for example. So, and how can we do that? Dependencies follow, or dependency catalogs follow a very strict schema. And we can actually wrap, for instance, our Node schema into that schema of a version catalog. We just say, for example, oops, I didn't mark that. For example, for Axios, we can also assign here a version, right? And then use, for instance, the group that we want to address production, and we have the name of the dependency, and so on and so on. So, and on the consumer side, then we build a neat little extension for dependencies where we can consume the dependency like a normal library. And then what I just said, using or assigning the actual components from the dependency catalog into the right bucket, which is actually happening here. We have the provider, that's what we're getting. Minimal external module dependency provider, that is what dependency catalog dependency in the end is. So many dependencies in one sentence. God. We get the provider, we resolve the provider, and then we just use the single components in the definition of an artifact to our liking and how we need it, and we are good. So what else? Can we do more? Yes, we have to do even more. Because you also want to ensure that dependencies work as you think they do. Sometimes you just change a version and boom, nothing works anymore, right? Happens. And that's also very easy because we still can use this dependency resolution management block at maybe a small example project which reproduce our external dependencies to our liking, and then we include our dependency catalog into the other project. That's also possible, and that's what here actually happened. And then actually modify our consumer side to actually use that file dependency catalog and just check out if the dependencies still work. We just overwrite the linking. So there's even a little bit more advanced use case which we can do, but more to that later. So, and let's summarize that. First of all, version catalogs are super, super versatile, as you see, right? You can use them to your liking, and you should actually use them because they are so great. There is a pragmatic API, and that's really important because we will need that later again. And you can develop with version catalogs really complex stuff. And I did that, so please don't. Because once a dependency catalog or version catalog gets very complex, you did something wrong, I promise you. My version catalog currently has a couple of thousand lines, and that's far too much, just because I play a little bit too much with it. So, and we can also share non-JVM artifacts, which is important. For instance, if you want to do something like Node.js, as I said, or you also want to have some Rust dependencies in there, you can do that. That's cool stuff. So, and let's come to the second part, project setup. So, can we somehow also distribute our configurations for our projects via the same method or something similar? Right? Because we don't want to have to rewrite all this boilerplate all over again. And let me quickly take a sip because this air condition kills me right now. If you're speaking all the time, your throat gets so dry. So the second thing we want to address that we want to keep our build files clean. I'm not sure how you are feeling, but I saw projects which are where the build files a couple of thousands lines long, and you don't know what's happening anymore there. And having them around maybe 100 lines is much, much better because you actually see what's unique for each module. And if you start sharing your conventions in a project or over multiple projects, that's much better. That gets you there. And of course, we also want to reduce the effort if we want, for instance, to set up a new project. Because if you have everything in small little plugins, you just address the plugins and you're done. So how we do that? So we have to look a little bit in how plugins work in Gradle. And they are super simple. Don't be afraid. They are really super simple. The only thing we need is actually the plugin interface, which is here. And the plugin interface needs to actually address a project. There's a second thing we can address. We come to that later. But just remember, I need plugin from Gradle API and project. And then I can actually implement a plugin. That's it. That's all what you need. That's the entry point. And in this apply block, you can do whatever you want. And that means you can do whatever you want with your conventions for Gradle, for your build system, because you have with that access to the entire target project, which you actually, or which Gradle even neatly called target, so which is a project. So cool. And if you want to have it more configurable, you can also add to that an extension, and extensions have properties, right? You can then add a property which is configurable from the outside if you have to, but normally if you write a convention plugin, you should not have the need to also configure it from the outside, because a convention should just make the configuration once for everything and that's it. But in some cases you need it as well. So, and once you have the interface, you can simply extend it to an abstract class and then, for example, also define a default value. Like this is here the case. That's part of my setup for KT Lint actually, and that's it. So, and here we just then bring both together, right? We have our small little plugin definition, and then we have our target project, and then we can create on the target project this extension which we defined before. Then we can, that's the creation block, and then we actually can also read it, and from the other side we can then use that. So, and this is an entire plugin, how it looks in real life, for example. You don't need to understand that code right away, just that you see that it gets a little bit longer, but that's really how complex that stuff got in this case, because then you can, for example, split up those faces, like for spotless, detect SonarQube, into separate small objects or whatsoever, and deal with the complexity there separately. And that's really cool to program, because then you have a good separation of concern and don't have to deal with all this mental overload in one place. You can distribute it, and you can also ship that then to other projects. So, and when, how we ship that in the end, first of all, we need the small little Java Gradle plugin for the setup for plugins. That's a little bit weird to say, but that's what you need. That's the line. Then you can actually define a plugin block, which actually says, oh yeah, please create a plugin for this and this ID. And there you find actually my plugin under this qualified name, and that's it. You can then also say something like, oh yeah, there's a display name that's not so important, or describe what the plugin does. But that's more something if you publish for Gradle plugin portal. So, and on the consumer side, you do what you normally do. You just apply the plugin, like here, like my plugin, that was our ID. Then if you load it from an external site, you of course have to also define the repository, and you can configure it normally like every other extension as well. Hooray. We shipped it and we did it. So what can we pre-configure with that? Mostly everything. That's the good message. So if you want to say, oh yeah, I have my own custom Kotlin multi-platform set up, you can put it into a plugin. If you say, I do something like with Rust Kotlin bindings, you can put it in a plugin. If you say, oh yeah, I have it set up for my coverage tool, you can put it in a plugin, and so on and so on and so on. Just everything which you are starting to repeat, you can simply put into a plugin, like your Firebase setup, whatever. And if you do that also for in your company, your colleagues will, in the long run, really thank you, because also you save their time, not only yours. So what else we can do? We can also use, of course, in plugins, other plugins. That's sometimes necessary, for example, like for Firebase, because Firebase itself is also a plugin, of course. And we can version our conventions, which is also important, because that means once you break something, you can easily roll back. If you have something manually set up in one place, just hard-coded, like normal people do that still nowadays, that's a problem, because then you have to roll back everything and redo it, and that burns a lot of time. If you have a plugin, you have one place to change stuff, And that saves a lot of time. And there's even something for the future, because Gradle nowadays slowly goes into the direction for a more declarative approach. And the future might be that you can only use in your build files declarative stuff and can configure anymore, because also Gradle wants that you configure in plugins nowadays and not in the build files anymore, because they know that this kind of complexity is bad and actually also ruins projects. Okay, and of course we can share our dependencies with other projects. That was our entire goal, right? So, and we can even do more with that. You can define plugins and use them locally without Maven. That's possible. You can do that via composites builds or via the include build block. And you can also define plugin in the same project, in the very same project, if you need, if you develop something more complex with that, and then reuse it in the same project for test purpose, or if you want to even use it in the same project. Like, for example, I have a custom-made publishing plugin, and I use the publishing plugin in the same repository to publish the publishing plugin. So it's a never-ending loop. That's a little bit crazy, but it saves a lot of time because I don't have to rewrite a new setup. So, and this is also powered by composite builds, and you need to do something with symlinks. But that's all the complexity you get. It's not much more. So, and how composite build looks like, just as a reminder, it's really just this, for example, nothing else. Cool. Can we do more? Can we package this stuff, right? Can we apply settings and version catalogs, right? Together, that we maybe have something we can drag into other projects and have already pre-configured our project stuff there. And the answer is, of course, we can. And the answer how to do that is another plugin, but this time it's not a project plugin, it's a setting plugin. So, and with the setting plugins, we get actually access to the block, which we normally would define under Gradle .settings something. So, and that means we can, for example, there predefine dependency catalog and also repositories and all this stuff. We don't have to repeat that ever again for any project. And that's really great, because that means in the end of the day, we end something like this that's in the settings file. And if we want to update, for instance, dependencies, we just have to change this little string here. That's all. And then we have a complete new set of dependencies. Nothing else to do. We don't have to update anything else, and that's great. And also, the fun fact is also something like Renovate picks that up. Once you ship that to Maven Central, your plugin. So you even have not to do that by hand. That's even better news. So, and can I do more with that? Yes, I can also ship something like my detect config to other projects, because that's also something I don't like to repeat this entire YAML file all over again. And that's possible. So what else we can do? I can actually use my dependencies in my convention plugins. That's also really great, because then you can also pre-configure something like JUnit. And that looks like this, right? First of all, we need to expose the version catalog to our plugins, for example. And that's very easy. We just add an extension. We add an extension to our project, and then from the project, we read the extensions from the project. That's a little bit confusing, but there we can actually then get something by type, our version catalog extension, and that means we have access to all the version catalogs in this setup, and then we can use that. For example, here we have a version catalog which is named dependency catalog, and we can export that to the outside. So, and then on the consumer side, we just have to do something like this somewhere in the project, and we can say, oh yeah, we have a dependency. Oh, I didn't highlight that one. This one is correct. I have something in my project, right, which has dependencies, and I can just then use this dependency catalog thing, which we exported earlier, and say, oh, please give me this library artifact, and that's it. So, hooray. And short recap. So we can basically configure everything and pre-configure everything for each project in one place. Hooray! We can share that for Gradle for good, and we can share as good as everything in Gradle, and we can just update dependencies and set up by just changing a string at the end of the day. That's it. So we reduced our effort to a bare minimum, because changing a string is super easy. And we just change everything else. If we have, for example, nowadays the update of Kotlin 1.9 to Kotlin 2.0, we can just then make this effort in one place, change the string in all the other projects we are depending on, and we are done. That was the goal. So if you have feedback, you can submit there for the talk. And with that, we are done. If you have questions, now is the time. Questions? Yes?
Is there a resource for like best practices that you recommend?
Resources. Unfortunately, not so much. You find for version catalogs everything on the Gradle page. They were described it in a very similar manner. For convention plugins, you find a lot of articles. You find a lot of repositories, but I think there is no general approach how to do that. I think you need just to look what actually fits your needs the best in this regard. You find really a lot nowadays if you just Google for convention plugins Gradle. So and then you pick what fits your style the most, I would say.
Is there like an approach that Gradle
No.
recommends? No.
No.
Here's a bunch of tools.
Gradle just say make convention plugins. That's all. So how you do that? To your liking. Yeah. So anybody else? Then we are good. Cool.
好，我们谢谢那个 Gladys， 谢谢。Thank you.